Hey everybody, this is Joel Hoekstra of Whitesnake. Welcome back to the School of Rock here at Guitar World. Listen, disclaimer. I want to take a step back and give a lesson here for those that are maybe a little bit more on the beginner to intermediate level, more about how to make notes sound like pros. If you're one of those guys out there that's like, man, I'm playing that tab and how come it just doesn't sound like I'm a professional? What's wrong? I've been doing some teaching at junior colleges and things of that nature, and a lot of them are heavy into the jazz or classical at that time, and I noticed that their hands just aren't approaching rock the right way. So that's what today's lesson is about. It's about coloring your notes. It's about taking the simple and making it sound good. It's not necessarily about me giving you guys a couple of incredible licks for you guys to go master and then say, that wasn't hard at all, Joel. Anyway, I want to just go back to the old staple, the A minor pentatonic scale, okay? Those that don't know it, because I said this is for beginner to intermediate, you're just going to go 5th fret to 8th fret on the low E, 5th fret to 7th on the next 3 strings, and then the last 2 strings, 5th to the 8th, okay? So that scale looks like this. And it is the foundation of rock guitar soloing. I mean, there were guitar heroes spawned off of really just that scale back in the 60s and 70s that didn't know anything that's kind of become the norm nowadays as far as the neoclassical soloing and, you know, the Phrygian sharp 3 or certainly any of the fusion stuff, melodic minor or the altered scale or diminished scales. This can really go a long way. Just has a lot to do with your hands. So I'm going to give you 15 ways today to color these notes, okay? Here we go. The first thing I want to work on doing is palm muting. Now, you might notice that I'm going to give you a few stock phrases in the magazine if you're looking at that. But for the sake of time today, I want to stick to the first stock phrase because I do have 15 things to get through, and I don't want it to get so time-consuming that some of you guys fall asleep halfway through. Anyway, I want to take from that scale this phrase. Now, that sounds fine and dandy. I've heard a lot of people, like I said, where I went to go teach, where they'd start to solo and they'd go with absolutely nothing to any of the notes, okay? Now let's breathe some soul into this stuff and make it music, not numbers on a page or a scale, okay? So let's work on the palm muting. That's where we're going to take the edge of our hand, just get it right off of the bridge, okay? So we get this kind of dead sound, okay? The idea is to be able to go across even the entire scale. And have it be fairly even in terms of how loud your notes are coming out, okay? That is a great place to start in terms of coloring your notes as a rock guitar player. Now, the second thing I want to work on doing is getting pick harmonics. Now, why this has ever been called a pick harmonic, I'll never really understand, because what's getting the harmonic is your thumb. As you're picking through the string, what's happening in a pick harmonic is your thumb hits the string immediately thereafter. And it's kind of nice to pull away from it and not just leave it sitting against it. Okay, so it's really a thumb harmonic in an odd way. But you will hear this sound instead of the normal note. That kind of pick squeal coming off of it, right? So that stock phrase you can even work, if you're a beginner, on just running those pick harmonics along a string. That's all just coming up from different positioning with my right hand. I'm just leaving the 7th fret down. Okay, now let's just take that stock phrase and let's alternate between palm muting and finding accent notes where we're going to get pick harmonics, okay? So I'm just going to pick like a couple of pick harmonics. Okay, that is a far cry already from when I hear people going to solo, okay? Okay, so if you can just get that bouncing around in the pentatonic. Okay, you can hear that really starts to sound musical just palm muting, going back and forth between pick harmonics. Great place to start. Now, next up, number 3 in terms of coloring your notes, vibrato. So important, guys. I mean, when I first played that phrase with no life, it's not singing at all, okay? What I want to practice doing is just giving each note a nice slow shake, okay? And bringing it right back to pitch. So you'll notice that it's kind of happening almost more from my wrist. I kind of holding my hand in a stationary position and moving my hand. It's not really trying to move your finger. That's not as effective. It's more effective to fret the note and shake your hand sideways. There's just a nice vibrato on everything from our first stock phrase, right? Sorry. So here's the vibrato on each of those once more. Okay, so combining the first 3. Okay, really starting to sound like music over this. All right, number 4. Sometimes I think guys are a little too passive when they're used to playing maybe jazz or classical. Sometimes it just comes down to grabbing it with like some balls and like sliding up to the notes. So, you know, when I go to that first note, I'm just coming from anywhere down on the neck. People sometimes will go, well, where are you sliding from? Well, you can't hear. You just pick that string and come right up into it. Okay, instantly gives the notes some aggression and some rock color that you're not going to get just from learning like a scale. Okay, this is all about the hands today. Now, obviously, if you can slide up to notes, you can slide down to notes. Okay, same thing. So, it doesn't have to be all of the notes. Here would be like combining some sliding up and or sliding up and sliding down. Okay, so instantly sounds better. The vibrato at the end then. Okay, it's that aggression. Now this next one is really crucial, I think, in terms of pick aggression. It's as important as the pick harmonic thing. And it's just raking dead strings into notes. It's something I find missing from a lot of even intermediate rock players. As I go to play that 5th fret on the A in our stock phrase, what I'm going to do is even come across the dead E string. I'm going to deaden that by putting my fingers from my left hand and my palm kind of to help kill it. You can tell I'm actually picking 2 strings there. I'm only getting 1 note, but I'm making sure that first one is dead, and then getting that stuff out of the way so we hear the second note. Now let's move on to the next string. You'll hear it even more because I'm getting 2 dead strings leading into it. Watch, these are just gonna be dead. That is a huge technique in terms of rock aggression and sounding like a professional and not sounding like, you don't have any soul or slow hand ability. You know, it is about sometimes the old cliche of making 1 note sound good. Doesn't have to be every note in these stock phrases. How about just that one, right? What if I did pick palm muting with a pick harmonic on the end, okay? Anyway, amazing how different you can make these phrases sound just through these little tricks, right? But you could also practice the entire scale that way. Feel free to go through and Okay, I think the more you work on getting those, it just has an aggressive sound to it that goes well with rock lead playing, okay? Hammer-ons. It's amazing how many times I say, do you know what a hammer-on is? And people go, yeah. But technically that's a trill when you keep a hammer-on and a pull-off going. With this, I want to just take a step backwards for a second and think hammer-ons are really just about picking the low note and then hammering on the higher note, okay? So if we were to go across the entire pentatonic scale that I showed you at the beginning, I'm only picking the 5th frets, okay? So from our initial stock phrase, the only places you could really apply that are here and at the end, right? So here's the way that phrase sounds with some hammer-ons. Oops, sorry, I did a pull-off there. Okay, obviously, you know, you can start to play this the way you want it. It's not meant to be taken so literally. This is really up to your interpretation, guys, and hopefully some of these talking about things that your hands can do will get you some attitude in your rock playing. Now, pull-offs. They're actually a little bit trickier than hammer-ons. I find a lot of beginners, at least, are going, why does it work? It doesn't work for me, you know? And it's because you need to pull across the string. You can't just pick your finger up and expect it to snap. So when I'm pulling off from 8 to 5 here in this pentatonic scale, I'm really snapping that pinky across the string strong. Okay, so hammer-ons and pull-offs obviously very similar, and the only place it would apply in our phrase 1 would be just there at the end. But what if we decided to just repeat that, right? What if we... Okay, or with the hammer-ons and pull-offs. Okay, we are a long way off from this. Those hammer-ons and pull-offs have a nice smooth sound to them. Trills, okay, that is where you keep the hammer-on and pull-off going. We talked about that a second ago. So, basically what you're doing is just keeping it rolling, okay? I'm hammering on and pulling off. Now, the veteran rock guys are going to roll their eyes at this, but I have to show this to the beginners and the intermediate guys. This is one of the ultimate cliche rock licks, but it's just awesome and it needs to be known. When you do trills, one of the coolest things you can do is run your finger along the string to get that sound. Now you have to remember, us guitar players, we maybe know what that is. We go, oh, he's doing that trick. But if you're just like the general dude and you're hearing that, you're going, oh man, a guitar player sounds like the greatest guitar player in the world. It really has a cool sound to it. It's a very simple cliche lick, obviously. But I think some of you beginners out there, work on that. You know, work on just getting your trills going. So what if I just threw that in, even on like I'll trill on the way up. Okay, really sounding a lot different than... Okay, so how about artificial harmonics, okay? Let's work on just tapping 12 frets away, but just barely over the fret. So instead of playing in the fret like that, I want to tap just directly over the fret. Okay, it has a totally different sound, right? Sounds very chimey. Anyway, what I'm doing is for this 5th fret, I'm going 12 frets away and just touching lightly, okay? Kind of snapping my finger off it. Or you can set it down after the fact too. Listen, here's me picking the note. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and climb the first 4 notes with artificial harmonics, and then we'll set down the last note after the fact. Like, so I'll go. Okay, incidentally, these also work really well. 12, 7, or 5 away, okay? Those are going to be the easiest ones for you guys to get. 12 is a great place to start for you beginners. And again, that's who this lesson is primarily for in terms of just getting started and sounding like rockers. So also, how about not using the pick and picking with the flesh of your right hand? Man, sometimes to me, that really makes a big difference. Like, you almost hear harmonics off of that, right? That sounds a lot different to me than this. So what I'm doing is either like, sometimes I'll use my index finger, almost digging under the string, getting that snap, almost like a bass player slapping, right? Those notes to me sound really full and have a cool tonality to them. Anyway, there's nothing more to that one. That's just talking about using I'm using not really the nails of the right hand, just the flesh of it. Okay. Now, something else, very cool, especially for when songs are beginning or kind of broken down. Setting down the note with the left hand, fading it in with your volume knob. So if I play it our stock phrase, okay, great for those kind of breakdown ballady moments. And the cool thing about this A minor pentatonic scale for you beginners is it'll fit over anything that's in A or A minor. I mean, if you're jamming in A blues, that's where you want to start soloing, any kind of A classic rock thing, A minor ballads. So this is a great place to start with your soloing, and all these little colors will hopefully fit in one place or another. I would recommend putting on a drum loop or any kind of vamp in A and work on your soloing with all of this stuff through the entire scale until you feel like you have a good handle on it. Anyway, those are just called volume swells. Okay, now tremolo picking. What the heck is that? It's not a pedal. We're trying to stay away. We obviously get color notes with pedals. We're trying to talk about hands today, right? So a tremolo picking is just nothing more than picking a note as fast as you can. So let's take that first note. Okay. You could work on any of the notes, whatever you want to do. It's just an... Anyway, I'm just trying to show you all this sliding up, sliding down. All this stuff really starts to sound like music and not a scale. And that's a huge goal, I think, for beginners to start to get to that point where they go, yeah, all right, I get it. Now, because I've learned the scale, but it never sounded right. Okay, quite possibly the biggest one you're going to want to work on is bends, guys. So we're on the 14th way to color your notes, by the way, out of the 15. Let's take that stock phrase, and let's take that 5th fret right there, and let's try and bend that until it sounds like the 7th. Now, there's different ways to bend. You could go up fast. You could go up slow. Obviously, I'm doing vibrato at the end of the bend, so fast, slow. You could come back. Okay, really inspiring for that slow hand style of playing. Ghost bends. That is when you've already bent the note. Pick it when it's already bent. Then you bring it right back down. Another really cool one is to bend up and kind of stop the note as it comes down. That sounds better with high notes, actually. I should show you like here. That is one of the most popular, like kind of classic rock sounding bend techniques. Now Now, what was I doing there to get that? That was just a little bit of the pick harmonic thing, right? So anyway, you should work on bending each step of the pentatonic scale. If it's the lower note of the two, you bend until it sounds like the higher note. Now, this is a little harder to describe for you guys, but the higher note is always going to be 2 frets higher, except for these 2 strings. The A and the D string, those need to sound 3 frets higher. So like here, there's going up slow, fast, ghost bending, or the... Anyway, I would work on each step of the way with that stock phrase. Okay, now we're really not sounding like... Okay, the whole goal, right? To sound musical. And for those that haven't messed around with one yet, a little primer on how to use slide, because that is obviously a great way to color your notes, okay? Basically, when you play slide, what you're going to try and do is with your right hand, deaden every string but the one you're playing on. That's the biggest trick. And in terms of where you go with it, you try and go, you're barely touching the string. I remember no one taught me how to play slide. I remember sitting at home fretting it and going, what, this doesn't sound like anything. I'm just moving. I was fretting my normal notes. But if you press lightly on a string, you can go all the way up, right? So I just want to work on going lightly directly over the frets of our stock phrase. In general, what I do with my right hand is I pick the notes with my index finger. My thumb is killing the low E so it doesn't make any noise. If I leave it all open, it sounds like that immediately, even though I only picked one. It's just very noisy, right? So I'm killing the low E with my thumb, and you can see my fingers are getting the other ones. And I'm going directly over the 5th fret, not where you would normally play. Okay, you can slide up, slide down to that note. I think in terms of playing your stock phrase, as I continued on to like the D string, right there I ended up using my middle finger to pick it, but it could be the same philosophy. Your index could pluck it, thumb would kill the E and the A, and these 3 would kill the remaining 3 strings. At the end there, I ended up using my thumb to pick that. You will find your way to it. I think the idea is this is for beginners, and a lot of you may have never even put on a slide yet, but I would like you guys to give it a go, man. It's a great way to color these notes with pentatonic. Okay, so there's your stock phrase. So there you go, 15 ways to color your notes in that pentatonic scale to sound maybe a little more professional if you're feeling like you know the scales, but it just ain't working for you. Now, bonus round for you Les Paul guys, because you got to know it. The toggle switch trick, if you kill the volume on your rhythm pickup down to 0, and you have the volume on 10 for your treble pickup, you can also get this sound. Very just, it's its own thing in terms of the rock cliche world. It's a huge lick, great thing to be on top of, but you could work on setting down, even in middle position it'll be dead, because that 0 pickup is what's killing it. So if I just set down with my left hand and kind of toggle in, you can come up with some cool rock licks that way as well. So anyway, there you have it, guys. 15, and we'll call it a half, ways to color your notes. Hope some of you have great success with it, turn into huge rock stars, and play the largest stages in the world. I hope to catch you guys next time. Thanks to Guitar World for having me. See you next time on the School of Rock.